have to fast for Yom Kippur, or do you actually have to eat? Let's explore this question and some others from a disability-centered and inclusive perspective. Shalom Mishpacha, Rabbi Esther here, and I'm back with another quick pre-Yom Kippur episode because I get this question each year and it's time to give you some resources and give you some confidence in making a decision that is right for you. So the question is, do I have to fast on Yom Kippur? So I get this question a lot from people who have trouble fasting, or who have been disadvised from their doctors to fast, or who have a history of disordered eating and find fasting perilous to their mental well-being. From that perspective, the resounding answer is, it's a mitzvah to eat. And you should always follow the medical advice of your healthcare professional. The medical advice of a trusted doctor trumps everything else according to Jewish law. Whether you are Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Ultra-Orthodox, you have to take care of your own health needs first. So having gotten that out of the way, that you have to take care of you and do what is right for your health in consultation with your medical professional or your mental health professional, there is actually a great resource that I want to recommend. So I want to recommend an organization called A Mitzvah To Eat. The website is mitzvahtoeat.org, and they are a rabbinically led organization that offers Jews advice on how to fast, if to fast, and how to modify fasts or how not to fast altogether. They have a disability-centered focus and endorsements from rabbis and other scholars with disabilities, as well as a bunch of resources and testimonials on the website. They also take you through some of the classical sources discussing this in halakha. Now, what is important about this? There is a lot of mythology about the need to fast. And as I said very early on in this video, your health and well-being comes first. There are certainly things that you can do to modify a fast. If you need to take in food for medical purposes, you could have simple foods or eat foods at certain intervals to kind of retain the solemnity of the day. The caveat with this approach is, of course, for people who have a history of disordered eating. I am not a clinician, and what I want to do is actually put back the power in your hands to make the right decision for you. But if you feel triggered by depriving yourself or restricting certain foods, then you should again choose your mental and emotional well-being and eat whatever you need to eat in order to maintain your sense of balance. That's it, right? That's the video. I could stop right here. But I do want to have a conversation about Disability Torah. Disability Torah is kind of an unfolding approach in Jewish tradition where the disability community advocates for their own health needs and their own dignity in Jewish spaces. There are all kinds of Jewish disability activists who center this issue in our communities, and our communities are still struggling to equip ourselves adequately to make sure that people with disabilities can express themselves fully in every way in our communities. Now that is a much longer conversation and I'm not going to get too far into it, but I do want to plug this book, which is a fantastic book written by a rabbi and a disability scholar / activist, and it's called Loving Our Own Bones, Disability, Wisdom, and the Spiritual Subversiveness of Knowing Ourselves Whole by Julia Watts Belser. I'm very proud of my copy because my copy actually came with a signed card. Isn't that neat? So I have a signed copy of the book. What this book does is it goes through both the kind of social and political implications of disability and disability activism, written from a secular lens and addressing both a Jewish audience and a broader non-Jewish audience. But it also brings in stories of the Torah and new concepts and frames for understanding ourselves and understanding our spiritual ancestors and even understanding God. One of the remarkable stories in this is the rabbi's commentary on the vision of Ezekiel. This is known as the Ma'aseh Merkava, the work of the chariot in Jewish mysticism, and it's from the chapter of Ezekiel that describes the likeness of the image of God as seen in wheels turning in wheels and eyes being planted upon the wheels. It's a very esoteric image. There are reams of commentary on what it could be. Julia takes this image and transforms it into imagining God as being a wheelchair user, which is such an amazing image that God has wheels. If we are all created B'Tselem Elohim, then those of us with disabilities are, of course, also created B'Tselem Elohim. In the book, she will draw on stories about priestly perfection or not, Isaac's blindness, Jacob and the angel, and other stories from our traditions. I do want to share one passage from this book, which I think applies to all of us and can take an interesting perspective on Yom Kippur, which is about ableism. Ableism, of course, being the value system that prioritizes and favors the able-bodied, however we understand it, and marginalizes people with disabilities. Julia Watts Belser writes the following about this. Ableism is a lie, my friends. It hits hardest and with greatest cost against those of us whose body minds fall furthest from its portrait galleries of ideal types. But it is coming for us all. All of us have bodies that creak and crumble. All of us have minds that will not always skip through calculations like nimble little dancers. All of us deserve a world that welcomes us, a world that wants the very quirkiness that ableism would outlaw, a world that savors neurodiversity, that sees our strangeness and our singularity as a witness to infinity, a world that prizes us, that praises our particularity, a world that can embrace our frailties and foibles, a world that celebrates and cradles us, a world that desires us. I think this is a really powerful insight for Yom Kippur, where all of us renegotiate our relationship with our body and become temporarily less abled through the acts of fasting and prayer, and by denying ourselves some of the core comforts that we take for granted in daily life. Often it is said that we strive to be like the angels on Yom Kippur. We strive to deprive ourselves of normal mortal needs, but we also reenact our mortality and our frailty. And what Rabbi Julia is arguing is that all of us are frail, and all of us will one day become less and less abled as we march towards our own death. Our bodies will give out, they will fail us, we may lose key faculties, and this is a natural and inevitable process for all human beings. So having that endpoint for all of us to hold in our lives and to live with that awareness should create empathy for those of us who do have challenges or disabilities, because we're all going to get there. It's just a matter of time. Now, you can despair at that thought, of course, but you can also create great meaning, hope, and empathy out of it. What does it mean for all of us to embrace our frailty and therefore see the uniqueness and beauty in our fellow human beings, and treat ourselves with kindness if we find that we cannot do certain things that are communally set expectations or that we would want to do or can no longer do? And Yom Kippur can really bring out the visibility of a disability or a challenge if you cannot fast. And Yom Kippur can really bring out the visibility of a disability or a challenge if you cannot fast, because you see the whole community fasting and then you yourself cannot fast, and that can be a very isolating experience. So I hope this is a little bit of encouragement for you on Yom Kippur, which can be a really triggering day, especially when it comes to the choreography of the service, standing, sitting, bowing, kneeling, whatever it is, and of course the restrictive eating practice of fasting. And for those of you who cannot or should not restrict your eating, I insist that you eat and make a blessing over your food and relish your food and consider it a divine mandate to eat, because keeping yourself B'Tselem Elohim healthy and whole is a mitzvah. So please, 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 if you cannot fast for Yom Kippur, eat, and do so with gusto and joy and in the full knowledge that this is a holy act. For all of us, I wish you a Gemar Chatima Tova, a good sealing in the book of life. And I promise I will come back to this book in greater detail after the high holidays. I don't know when. I'm just going to keep on churning out these interesting book discussions on my channel. I also have a series on the sacred table, which is in my playlist, which talks about Judaism and food culture and restrictive eating and how to make healthy, life-affirming choices as well. So feel free to check out that resource. I wish you well over the fast. For those of us who are fasting, remember to hydrate. Plenty of time ahead. You should be hydrating now. For those of you who aren't fasting or who are modifying your fast, I wish you so much good luck with those preparations and relishing the beautiful nourishment that you take into your body. Thank you for joining me today. Shalom uvracha, and may we all enter this new year in wholeness, forgiveness, grace, and peace.